You can see below.
Good afternoon and welcome to our Webinar Wednesday Bar Mitzvah, the 13th in our Webinar Wednesday series, New Technologies and Their Cyber Threats, featuring two of Israel and BGU's best and brightest experts in the field, Professor Yuval Elovici and a fellow Canadian ex-Torontonian, Dr. Yisroel Mirsky. Shalom and bonjour and hello to all of you who have registered from around the globe. To be exact, Israel, England, Scotland, France, the United States, and of course, Canada, not to mention from Côte St. Luc here in Montreal. We might also have some of our colleagues from the Associates offices in Europe, South America, and Mexico. I am Mark Mendelson, the extremely proud Chief Executive Officer of the Canadian Associates of Ben-Gurion University, and it is once again my pleasure and honor to be moderating today's program. I would just like to say a very warm shout out and hello to our son's first nanny, babysitter, when we returned from Israel in 1988, who now, along with her husband, are doing their graduate and postdoc work in cybersecurity in Glasgow, Scotland. Hola, Liliana. I'm thrilled to tell you that we have 150 registered participants for the webinar, and we expect even more to watch us live streaming on Facebook, which we are doing as I speak. My staff, our lay leaders, and I spend many hours discussing which experts and from which field to invite from BGU, and I believe that so far we have wisely chosen, as each webinar has really resonated with our supporters and friendships. On behalf of the lay leadership and staff of CABGU, Canadian Associates of Ben-Gurion University, I welcome you and thank you all for joining us. I must say that this is just another feather in our Canadian cap, or our Canadian toque, of successes during these difficult COVID times. We've also just received the numbers for our fiscal year ending on September 30th. And once again, we have achieved record results 4 years in a row, the amount of which we could only have dreamed about when I started way back in 2011. We really run a lean and keen boutique operation, and the past year we had 7 staff plus myself. Now we are 8 plus me, and these results are a total team effort with staff, board members, donors, all playing important roles. Kol hakavod to all of us and you, our supporters, and of course, our colleagues in Israel at BGU. Our format today will be quite similar to our past webinars. For those of you who have attended any of them, I will introduce both Professor Yuval Elovici and Dr. Yisroel Mirsky, who will each speak for 15 minutes or so. I will give each one a 2-minute warning, and then they will soon finish their presentation. As usual, my colleague and Executive Director of Montreal and Ottawa, Simon Ben-Simon, will take over with the question and answer segment. Zach Ostrov, Executive Director of Winnipeg, will once again resume his duties as CRT, Chief Resident Techie of our team. And today, for the first time, we will also have on team screen, you can see in front of you, Galit Solomon, who has just joined us as a new Manager of Communications and Marketing. She is an outstanding addition to Team CABGU, and I heartily welcome her to our team. We were lucky to have been able to persuade her to join us, and some of you from Toronto might recognize her from being an anchor on City News and CTV Toronto News. For our listeners, whoever has comments or questions, you will see the icon at the bottom of your screen, which you will just have to click on to submit questions. Remember, the topic today is new technologies and their cyber threats. Very timely for us, especially in Montreal, where only last week, Montreal subway system was completely hacked, as well as the largest hospital in the city, the Jewish General Hospital, where I was born in 1949. Of course, there's been a myriad of financial institutions, especially in Quebec, which have recently been hacked, and their information has been stolen by the hackers. It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce our two presenters. Professor Yuval Elovici, whose expertise and brilliance in cyber is a sought-after commodity throughout the world. I have had the fortune to have traveled with Yuval, the good fortune, across Canada, and his expertise in the field is just incredible. I wouldn't dare to guess what Yuval knows about cyber events and attacks happening throughout the world, and especially in Israel. Professor Elovici is the director of the Deutsche Telekom Innovation Laboratories at Ben-Gurion University and head of the BGU Cybersecurity Research Center. and is professor in the Department of Software and Information Systems Engineering at BGU. He holds a BSc and MSc in Computer and Electrical Engineering and a PhD in Information Systems. In 2018, he was one of only 3 researchers who were invited to represent Israel at the World Economic Forum at Davos, Switzerland, presenting on the impact of artificial intelligence. Yisroel Mirsky is a postdoc fellow at the Institute for Information Security and Privacy at Georgia Institute of Technology. Born and raised in Toronto, he made Aliyah at age 18 and received his PhD from Ben-Gurion University in 2018, where he is still affiliated as a security researcher. His main research interests and expertise include deepfakes, adversarial machine learning, online anomaly detection, and network security. Many of Yisroel's works and papers were published in the top cyber journals in the world, as well as the Washington Post. I now ask Yuval to lead off, and the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Mark. I will start to give my short talk, my perspective about new technologies and their cyber threats. First of all, who we are. I am the head of Cyber at BGU, where we have 3 centers: Telecom Innovation Laboratories, BGU Cybersecurity Research Center, and the Center for Computational Criminology. We are working on applied research in cybersecurity. We do a lot of collaboration with the industry, and we focus on publications and creating a lot of patents. My main research topic is cybersecurity using machine learning and big data analytics. And around 150 members in the university are working on the different research. These are examples of the research areas that we are working on: advanced malware, mobile device security, and so on. And today, I will give you several examples of achievements that we did in the domain of cyber security. First of all, about new technology leads to new threats. We claim that every new technology immediately is followed by new threats that require new cybersecurity mechanisms to mitigate these threats. So every new computer-aided technology which are being developed attracts attackers to compromise them. And there is a need, first of all, to identify the new threats. And this is part of what we are doing as part of our research, is to identify new threats to new technologies, and then to provide security mitigations to cope with the new threats and to stop these attacks. I am going, during this short talk, to give you 3 examples of 3 technologies and threats that they created and how they can be mitigated. First of all, a technology that we call it drone technology, autonomous cars, which is a new technology, and even a LED bulb. I will show you how a LED bulb can create a new threat to our privacy. First of all, let's give this example. Mark gave several excellent examples about new cyber attacks in Montreal, but look about this attack. This hotel in Austria was very, very sophisticated. He adapted IoT and smart lock technologies to the entire hotel. And what happened is that hacker hacked the smart locking system in the hotel, and they locked all the guests inside their rooms, and they asked for ransomware. And eventually the hotel ended up, and it was in 2017, paying $1,800 ransom in order to unlock all their guests from their room. This is an example of a new technology that eventually led to a new type of attack that couldn't happen without the introduction of a smart lock system. Let's talk a little bit about drone technology. You know, drones can be used for many, many purposes. And we are going to see in the next 5 years a lot of drones used for commercial use cases, insurance claim validation, organ transplant delivery. And there are many, many other examples where drones are going to play a huge role. And I think that the biggest role is going to be e-commerce, to bring us goods, for example, by Amazon to our houses. But each one of these drones is equipped with a camera. And this camera may be used to penetrate, to infringe our privacy. and people may be able to see using the camera of their drone what is happening inside our house without our permission, even if they are flying not above our property, but close to our property. And the research question was, how can we detect that actually there is a drone flying nearby that is actually invading our privacy? Here you are going to see a short video describing the outcome of our research. We called it Game of Drones. You can see our student is flying a drone above the neighbor yard. It's like the neighbor is allowed to fly, to photograph himself using a drone. This is the neighbor yard. In a few minutes, you're going to see that I am the neighbor with the greener grass. Now, the neighbor is actually invading my privacy. He's looking at my property and he's trying to see what is happening in my living room. This is an invasion of privacy using a new technology, which is drone technology. Now comes the question, how can I detect that actually a drone is looking at us? So we developed a very, very innovative technology that intercepts the encrypted communication between the drone and its operator. And now we placed on the window, you can see in my window, we placed a smart screen. And this smart shield creates a blinking, and we know how to detect this blinking in the video stream between the drone and its operator. And by that, we can actually prove that the drone is looking at us, because if there is a drone transmission, that inside its encrypted transmission, there is a correlation between our blinking in my living room and the signal sent from the drone to its operator, it means that the drone camera is directed towards us, and currently the operator of the drone is invading our privacy. So it's an example, a new technology and a mitigation technology that can actually detect if a drone is invading our privacy. This technology was also presented to our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he wanted to make a show of Israeli technologies to the Prime Minister of Cyprus and the President of Greece. And in their visit, he asked me to present it, and we presented them in the demo how actually we are using a drone technology to detect whether a drone is invading our privacy. Another technology is autonomous cars. Now, there are different levels of autonomous cars, and we try to see whether the AI system employed by advanced cars, even if it's not level 5 completely autonomous car, whether we can actually fool these AI systems by introducing what we call to create phantom attack, to project something on the road, and by that to try to fool the computers of the car. So you can see here a video. In this research also, Yisroel Mirsky contributed a lot. So what we try to do here, we took a Tesla Model X, and we tried to see whether we can fool such a car. Tesla was manufactured by, Tesla car was manufactured by a company headed by Elon Musk, so we used the Elon Musk to fool the car. So you can see here in a few seconds demos how actually by projecting objects on the road and on trees, we manage actually to fool the AI systems of the car, called also ADAS. So first of all, we projected in front of the car on the street the picture of Elon Musk. And as you can see, we are projecting the picture of Elon Musk on the road. The car is fooled to think that there is a person on the road and literally stops the car. So if somebody wants to stop a car, it just needs to project an image of somebody on the road or draw it, and the car is going to stop automatically. In the case of a Tesla Model X car. This is actually what the car, the AI system in the car, sees from inside the car. So they actually detect the phantom attack as a real person in front of the car, where the human being were never fooled by such a simple attack. Then we try to see whether by projecting fake lanes on the road, whether we can force the car to take a turn. And you can see here that the car identifies these fake lanes created by projecting an image and takes the car. If it was a complete autopilot, it may create an accident in this case. Again, you can see how the internal AI system of the car sees our fake lanes. Literally, they detect them very, very accurately. Then you can see also that there is a company called Mobileye in Israel. They also built an ADAS for more simple cars. And as you can see here, we took a drone, we projected a speed limit sign on just for a fraction of a second, 0.1 second. It was enough to fool the Mobileye system inside the car. 125 milliseconds of blinking of speed limit was enough to be captured by the Mobileye, and the Mobileye actually gave a recommendation to the pilot accordingly, which is a real, actually managed to fool the AI systems. And in order to cope with such attacks, there is a need to develop a more advanced AI technology that will try to detect the context of the images of what the camera actually sees. And if we are going to detect the context, we will see very, very fast that actually there is a fake phantom attacks. We will be able to detect them very, very easily using a more advanced AI technology. So what we did, we demonstrated the attack, and then the goal is to develop innovative technology to prevent the AI system to be fooled so easily. The last example that I want to give you, it's a little bit more tricky. Actually, what we did in this research, we took a lamp, actually an LED lamp, and we proved that if somebody will be able to look at the lamp inside your house using a telescope, and is going to put inside the telescope a very, very simple sensor, you will be able to turn the vibrations of the lamp due to our speech into sound. In other words, it will be able to tap you and to listen to what is happening inside the room just by observing the very, very small vibrations of the lamp inside your house. So actually, the lamp inside your house is like a microphone, and if somebody can look at your lamp with a telescope, he will be able to convert these vibrations into sound and to tap inside your house. We'll give you an example of how this technology is working.
Sound wave is an inner pressure traveling through space. When a sound wave hits an object, it causes the surface of the object to vibrate. The real-time passive sound limited in studies presenting methods aimed at recovering sound by obtaining data from motion sensors, high-frequency video cameras, laser transceivers.
This research that was done in the past.
Device with malware and others require the attackers to direct a laser beam at an object. We present LAMPHONE, an innovative method for recovering sound in which a remote electro-optical sensor is used to analyze a hanging light bulb's frequency response to sound. By exploiting fluctuations in the air pressure on the surface of the hanging bulb, which cause the bulb to vibrate, lamp phone is capable of recovering sound. Lamp phone is completely passive and no laser beam is required. In addition, lamp phone is an external method and can be used to recover speech in real time without the need to compromise any device with malware. The hanging bulb acts as a diaphragm that vibrates when sound waves hit the bulb.
Yuval, 2
In
minutes.
addition, when the bulb is turned on, it acts as a transducer, converting air pressure from sound to small changes of light. The experiments conducted show that bulbs produce unequal amounts of light at different angles. When sound hits a hanging bulb, it causes the bulb to vibrate and produce small differences of light that can be captured by a fixed sensor. How small are these vibrations? The experiments conducted show that extremely slight vibrations of just a few milledegrees are sufficient for recovering speech and non-speech audio.
So the lamp is actually like a microphone.
It's isolated from the raw optical signal in 4 stages: bandstop filtering, normalization, noise reduction, and equalization. We performed the lamp phone attack against a target office containing a hanging bulb loop.
So you see, we sat here on the bridge close to our building in the high-tech park of the university. Somebody with a telescope was observing a light bulb inside the office, and while he was able to reconstruct, as you will see in a second, every single word, spoken word inside this room just by looking at the bulb.
It is 25 meters away.
You see here the telescope looking at a lamp, LED bulb inside the room, inside the office.
Inside the office, we played 2 songs and a statement made by Donald Trump via speakers. A telescope was directed at a hanging E27 bulb in the office. As can be seen from the video, the experiment is completely passive and relies purely on a standard bulb. The sound that was played inside the office cannot be heard from the bridge. We recovered 2 songs that were played in the office. Both songs were recognized by Shazam.
Just by looking at the bulb, we reconstructed the song played inside the office.
A well-known statement made by President Donald Trump that was transcribed by Google Text-to-Speech API.
We will make America great again.
Read more about this research.
So that's conclude my 3 examples of how new technologies create new type of attack vectors that can be implemented by adversaries, and how actually we need to prevent new solutions to cope with these new attack vectors. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Sorry. Every time I look at a light bulb, I'm going to look at it differently, and I better remain dressed in my room from now on. That's all I can say. Yisroel,
Hi.
I'm sure you will be a wonderful follow to Yuval. The
It will
screen
be
is all
hard.
yours.
Hi, everybody. So today I want to talk a little bit more focus on the AI side. Let's see if I can get my slides working here. Okay. Yeah, so basically, if you think about artificial intelligence, about a few decades ago, artificial intelligence was really considered science fiction. And only within the last decade or 2, machine learning really took off, and that enabled deep learning, the use of artificial neural networks, to perform amazing things, absolutely amazing tasks, like you've all talked about, driving autonomous vehicles. These things weren't even possible before, as we'll talk about soon, also enable all sorts of new kinds of attack vectors. So I'm going to focus on one particular kind of artificial intelligence, and that's generative AI. So if you go to this URL here written on the bottom, thispersondoesnotexist.com, every single time you refresh that website, you get a new face. And that face, as real as it seems, as hyper-realistic as it is, that is not a person that exists anywhere in the world. And you can keep on hitting refresh on that website and get new identities over and over and over again. And this is the power of generative AI in these days. And this technology was just invented about 2 years ago, this specific technology called the StyleGAN. So where did this technology really take off? Well, so we're talking about artificial intelligence and deep neural networks. So the one that really took off generative AI is a model called a generative adversarial neural network, first published in 2014. And since then, there have been thousands and thousands of variations of this technology. So here what you're looking at is just a sketch I've made of a few dozen of the variations of the GAN technology, but all for one specific application, and that's for facial reenactment, where somebody can control somebody's face to do whatever he wants them to do. But that's just one example. There's so many more positive and negative uses. So let's talk a little bit more about the positive for the moment. So here's just one example of what you can use generative AI to do. So say somebody's photobombing you in a picture or even a video. This paper just published just a month ago shows how you could use this technology to remove any object seamlessly from the image, which is absolutely amazing. So I want to focus on one specific kind of generated AI media, and that's the deepfake. So many of you have heard of what, the word or term deepfake before. I'll give you a broad definition. So a deepfake is any believable media generated by a deep neural network. And again, deep neural network is a type of AI. And we say it's believable because it's so realistic that as a human, when you look at this or hear this or observe this in any way, you think that it's a natural phenomenon. So there are many different kinds of deepfakes, and deepfakes that can be used for fun, for good purposes. For example, you can put Nicolas Cage's face into your favorite music videos, or you can have Keanu Reeves pretend that he's preventing some sort of robbery. You can even reenact the Mona Lisa, and there's all sorts of educational and positive uses for this technology. You can even, for example, make yourself dance perfectly. However, as we know, with every new technology, there's also malicious uses for that technology. So the one that we're most concerned about nowadays is facial reenactment, as we mentioned before, where an attacker can take a persona and completely become an imposter of that persona. And that's very scary when you consider the political side of this, where misinformation spreads so quickly on the internet. Somebody can make a video of some very big political leader making a statement, and before that can be proven to be wrong, the damage has already been done. So here's an example that shows you that this technology has gone much further. It used to be that even just from around 2017, that you need thousands and thousands of minutes of video of your target to reenact him. So here in this paper that was published just about a year ago, it shows that you can actually reenact anybody from a single photo. So take somebody's profile photo for example, you can completely control that face. So here I'm reenacting Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can do any celebrity you like. You can also reenact very important academic personalities. And you can even go back to that same website or the same technology, the StyleGAN, and generate a completely new persona that can't be traced back to you, and have a completely fake persona to then do whatever nefarious task you have in mind. Just here a few more examples. You can even copy the identity of an important CEO, for example. And of course, you can copy the CEO of CABGU and have them say whatever you like. So this is interesting. This shows you that, just one single photo, I can copy that persona, and I can call somebody up, say on a Zoom chat or a Zoom video or some other video application, and completely steal his identity and become an imposter. But it's not just video, it's also audio. So for example, Here's a demo that I've created using a technology that allows you to copy somebody that's spoken for just 3 seconds, 3 or 4 seconds. If you have a recording of his voice, you can clone his voice and have him say whatever you want. So here's just a quick demo. I've recorded a CEO speaking, and then I clone his voice to make a phone call to tell his employees to transfer money. See if I can get this to work.
You know, I've had some chats with my bigger sales guys to see what the problems are that they.
This is a deepfake speaking. I have just cloned Robert's voice, and we're going to make a call. Hey Mark, it's Robert here. I want you to transfer 10K to the following account. Are you listening? Great. It's CH560350.
So that might sound like science fiction again, but actually this attack happened just about a year ago, where a CEO was scammed out of $250,000. Somebody copied his voice, cloned it, and then called up his assistant or his associate and had them transfer money to a specified account. And here's just another example where I can clone the president of BGU's voice, Professor Chamovitz. So here's the original audio.
And my job as president. Last summer, I had the privilege of taking part in a course for new presidents at Harvard University.
And here is the cloned version of where I have him say what I want.
Cybersecurity is a significant issue which requires immediate attention.
Not bad, especially if it's over the phone or under a certain stressful pretext. You can imagine that somebody on the other side will accept it without question. And that's very concerning. And it's not just, it doesn't stop there. We talked about audio, we talked about video, but what about the medical domain? So think of this, what happens if an attacker gets his hands on medical scans, say CT scans or MRI scans? He can use the same technology to manipulate those scans by injecting cancer or some other lesion or removing lesions completely seamlessly. And he might do this for a psychological reason, for terrorism, for example, monetary reasons, for insurance fraud, or even physical reasons such as assassination. Now, and this isn't, this technology, we actually want to show this is possible. So what we did is we've actually developed the technology. We've taken the same technology that existed called in-painting, and we showed that we can actually take CT scans and we can inject cancer and remove cancer. And the attacks are so realistic that we had 3 radiologists, expert radiologists, take a look at these scans, and they could not tell the difference between what is real and what is fake. And even when we had state-of-the-art AI tools for detecting cancer, those two were also fooled by these fake cancers. So it's one thing to show that you can grab some CT scan and you can manipulate it, but we want to show that this is a viable threat as well. So to do this, I came into a hospital with permission, of course, but covertly at night. I waited till the cleaning staff opened the doors, and I snuck in there with a device that would enable me to capture all scans sent from a CT scanner to their network and manipulate them before it's passed along the way. So here I am looking for the CT scanner. I found the radiologist workstations, and with about 2 minutes, I found the CT scanner room. And it took me just 30 seconds to install this small, tiny device that cost about $30 to buy. And so conveniently, there was a floor panel there, so I could hide it. And then I had a complete backdoor to the system, wireless Wi-Fi access point from the waiting room. I could check in on my attack. I could target which CT scans to manipulate. And this just goes to show how incredibly powerful this technology is. So this is the view from the waiting room. You can see I can receive all the traffic being sent from the CT scanner. And then afterwards, after I let the hospital know what has happened, they allowed me to scan a medical dummy, verifying that indeed this small device can capture all the scans, manipulate them. So where are we today? So we're really caught in a reactive arms race. So say some new academics or company comes up with a new deepfake detector for detecting these attacks. Well, what happens is once we've protected these assets, the attacker just looks for some vulnerability in this detector. Say it realizes that, oh, this detector is looking for small artifacts around the teeth region of that deepfake. So the attacker simply fine-tunes that problem, tries to get around that, and then exploits it. And now he has another way of developing deepfakes which evade that detection. And now the defender looks at that attack and then he fine-tunes his defense by, say, looking for another artifact, and this loop goes on and on and on and on. And what we really have to do to break out of this loop is find a solution that completely solves this issue in a more grander scale from a outside perspective. So what we need to really do is be proactive. So what is BGU doing about this? So I want to highlight some few specific cases where we're addressing this. So for detection, what we're trying to do is trying to raise the bar of for the attacker. So the attacker it'll become extremely challenging for him to achieve what he wants to achieve. So actually, recently we received a very, very prestigious grant from the EU, from the Horizon 2020 project, where we are leading the medical deepfake security research there. For prevention, we are identifying new attacks all the time to propose countermeasures before those attacks become mainstream, whether it be, say, the case of the cancer, which we also provide the solution, or the attack on the Tesla, like Professor Yuval Elovici showed, where we also, in the same paper, show the solution for detecting those attacks. And for education, we're helping the world better understand deepfakes and their limitations. So that be in publications on the topic of deepfakes, on what they are, how they work, and how they can be prevented, as well as all sorts of educational programs, such as the International Cybersecurity Machine Learning academic program, which we offer to students around the world. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Simon, are you coming on?
Great.
Guys, I just have to, it's just sitting here with my jaw dropped open and wondering what the hell, how can we protect ourselves? Anyway, Simon, I know we have quite a few very fascinating questions and I'd love to hear the answers. So the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you to both our speakers. And I guess the basic question is, how do we protect ourselves short of all moving back into caves and making sure that we're spending time alone? I guess confinement is one way of protecting ourselves. But Mark, one question that came up from a Montreal person, as Mark mentioned 2 weeks ago, both the major hospital and the transit authority were hacked, and one was asked for a ransom of Bitcoin and the other was not. So the question is, first of all, who are the hackers? And what is the difference between asking for a ransom and not asking for a ransom? Yuval?
Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Usually, the attackers are cyber criminals, and cyber criminals are employing cyber tools. Many of them are not developing the tools by themselves. They go to the black market, they buy the ransomware infrastructure tools, they are launching the attack, and their goal is to make money. Doing an attack without asking any ransom is very rare. Usually, it's a hacker that just want to make a show off, and usually these attacks are less sophisticated, usually. Of course, it may happen that it's as dangerous as the one that are doing it for money. But in general, the riskiest attacks are that are being done for getting ransom. It's very, very important to note that there are many, many cyber attacks where the attackers are never caught and still they are getting a huge amount of benefit from the attack. For example, if somebody is going to hack, for example, to Google headquarters, and they are going to gain the financial reports of Google 3 days before the quarterly reports, before they are being published, the value of this information is huge, because based on this value, the cyber criminals can go to the stock exchange and make a lot of money. In this case, Google will never discover, usually they will not discover that such an attack even existed. And you know what? Even if they are going to discover the attack, I'm doubtful if they are going to admit that they have been hacked. And in both cases, the attacker will gain a lot of money.
Yisroel, you want to add something?
Yeah, so in general, there are many different reasons why a hacker or a group of hackers perform an activity. And that ranges from being a monetary motivation to political motivation, revenge, or hacktivism, just to show that I can do this, I'm powerful. And most of what you see nowadays, especially in the last decade, is ransomware really taking off because the monetary aspect is really, really powerful, as the professor said. That when a hacker's out there, and there's especially a low-hanging fruit where sending out this malware, especially when you're just phishing, just sending it wherever it goes, wherever it sticks, and then suddenly it sticks somewhere, and you get a huge payoff. It's a very, very successful tactic, and that's why you see many more ransomware attacks than any other today.
So the related question in your presentation, Yuval, you mentioned that for $1,800 at the hotel in Switzerland, why not $180,000 to free hotel guests at a hotel? Why such a token amount?
Usually, attackers are trying to ask for a ransom that is small enough that people will pay. It's a balance, because above a certain amount they won't be able to pay, or they will go to other means. By the way, in most of the cases, even the FBI recommend to pay. So they are trying to look for a tariff that people are going to pay.
Excellent, thank you. On a related question, there's a question here. Isn't the issue of your work, and Yisroel, you mentioned a little bit, your work with governments, with the military, with large corporations, with Tesla, are you in contact, and are these companies reaching out to research centers such as yours to fix the kinks before they actually send off the product?
Usually not. Usually what is happening, in the case of Tesla, it's a perfect example, that we came out with this new type of attack. We demonstrated it. We asked for Tesla comments, and they claim that it's something marginal. So we have such cases where we are discovering new type of attack. Of course, we are doing responsible disclosure in front of the companies. In some cases, the company acknowledged there is a problem, and they fix it even before we publish it. In the case of Tesla, they claim that it's a minor issue, but we know that they are working on it. Now, we are not doing tests for companies. Companies are not coming with the technology to us and ask us, show us it can be broke, that you can bypass the security mechanism. And we are not doing such a type of work because we want to publish our things. And in such a case, they will give us a contract where we are not allowed to publish whatever we found. So we have no interest in doing such a research. But our main focus eventually is to develop new mitigation technologies to solve the problem. But sometimes we need to show that there is a problem before you can start a research on how to mitigate the new type of attack vector.
Right.
Discover.
That ties in also to the reactive arms race, as we said. To prevent the cycle, you have to understand what the attacker is going to do next before you just simply react to the last attack. So part of that is understanding, what's the technology capable of today, what an attacker might do, and especially since AI and machine learning is becoming so easy to obtain, you can just like some of the technologies I demoed here, you just go to the internet, go to a public repository, download the code, and you have it up and running within about 10 minutes. So it's so accessible that you really have to be able to think about how these technologies can be used maliciously to be able to offer the solutions before they become mainstream.
There's a question about older technology. For example, can a fax machine be hacked? Does it matter the newer or older technology?
I can give you, first of all, the answer is definitely yes. I can give you another example an old technology and a huge risk that it can be hacked. We are currently engaged in trying to build a consortium in Israel that will focus on satellite security. And one of the biggest risks there is there are many, many satellites that are already 10 years, flying around the globe, not flying, but
in orbit.
Being in orbit for more than 10 years. Usually the technology was developed even 5 years before. So it's a 15 years old technologies. And you know what? Cyber criminals managed to find a way how to hack the modems on these satellites and steal traffic between 2 points on Earth. You see, even an old technology, attackers may find a way how to hack it. And in such satellites, you cannot send them a firmware update. Usually they cannot even run more advanced code. So the answer, in a nutshell, the answer is yes. The motivation for attacks machine is lower than, for example, to attack 500 million satellite in orbit, where when you steal, a bandwidth between 2 points on Earth, what? Hackers are not only stealing this bandwidth, they're going and selling this bandwidth to others to gain the money, the revenue. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. There's a question here, or a comment and a question followed by a question. Isn't it that very high level encryption the main prevention that should be used? If not, are militaries vulnerable as well? And there's a concern about armies being vulnerable to cyber attack.
Look, the encryption is incredibly important for any data in motion. And but as we've seen in the past, there's the actual theoretical encryption that the traffic is being protected, and then there's the mechanism that's surrounding that communication that involves some sort of protocol or initial setup that can sometimes be vulnerable. As we see in the past, many different iterations of the technology as we thought was computationally secure, but the protocol itself was broken. So we're always improving. We're always making sure that is as strong as possible. And yes, for the most part, as far as we know, the latest and greatest is extremely secure. But that still doesn't prevent all cyber attacks, because that's just the communication going over the wire. That doesn't protect the host itself. That doesn't protect the human being exploited in social engineering. So there's the world of cybersecurity has grown much further beyond the mathematical models of encryption to a wide scope. And that's simply because technology has been, integrated within every single aspect of our lives.
There's one more question about paying ransom. Is, in fact, paying small ransoms part of doing business these days, and just a part of an expense, a business expense?
Look, I don't know what is happening in Canada exactly, but in Israel there are some even shops that are paying, protection. So criminals will protect them and nobody is going to make a burglary. So right. It's a new type of crime. Even the criminals move to digitization. It's the more advanced crime being done via the internet.
What about, there's a question about Bitcoin. Bitcoin seems to be the currency of choice. Can Bitcoin be hacked?
Bitcoin wallet definitely can be hacked. Maybe Israel, you can explain how it can be done.
Yeah, again, like the technology is still, growing and improving, but there's different aspects to the technology, different attack vectors. So maybe the mechanism itself is extremely strong, but where you store your private key, so to speak, the password to your wallet, may not be very secure. As we've seen many cases where huge banks, Bitcoin banks, have been broken into by hackers and everybody's money being stolen simply because it was the system itself that was containing that private information wasn't secure.
There's a question about USB authentication keys with or without multi-factor. Is that a good deterrent to crypto virus or data theft?
I highly recommend for every single service that offers two-factor authentication to enable two-factor authentication. And for those who don't know what two-factor authentication is, it's basically instead of just having one factor, say your password to prove that you are who you say you are, is to have another completely different channel to prove who you are. For example, receiving an SMS to your phone. So there are many, that's the first most common way of doing two-factor authentication. There are other ways of doing it as well, such as small keychains that can produce these seemingly random numbers. And I highly recommend that if, for example, you can set up for Gmail, many other services to enable this, because it really raises the bar for the attacker, because not only does he have to figure out your password, but also now he has to get physical access or cyber access to your phone, which is another stage that might not be worth it for the attacker.
Good. There's a on the issue of the drones. Can a simple curtain block a drone camera and not be seen from the air?
Yes, the answer is yes. But there are problems of celebrities that are inside their houses. They will not put curtains on all the windows to protect themselves, to protect their privacy. So curtain is not a solution. There is a possibility to block the drone communication. Our technology enables us to know which drone to block, to prove to ourselves that actually the drone is looking at us. Because maybe there is a drone hovering around, they're allowed to do that as long as they're not invading our privacy. There are technologies to block drone transmission. There is no problem to do that. But I need, first of all, to be sure that the drone is invading my privacy before I can literally block its communication. And this is the advantage of our technology.
Interesting question here. What is the role of cybersecurity insurance companies? Can you take out an insurance policy, a cyber insurance policy?
First of all, wherever there is a risk, insurance companies are coming into play. So definitely, this is a new type of risk. And then here comes the question, if you are buying a cyber insurance, whether companies are going to be, are going to invest less amount of money on security because they are insured, or the insurance companies are going to force the companies to put more security solutions in place in order to get the insurance. It's still not clear what actually is happening, but as far as I heard, at least in Israel, many insurance companies that are providing you a specific type of cyber insurance, they oblige you to take certain cybersecurity measures in order to protect your digital assets inside the organization.
Great, thank you. Yisroel, there's a question about deep fakes, and do you know of any examples where actual mainstream media or legitimate media are using that technique?
For positive use?
Positive or negative, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know mainstream, to me, like media outlets using for negative, but there have been reports of, for example, articles claiming that certain leaders in Africa are healthy when it's been claimed that those images are deep fakes. And I mean, also, and that's the negative side. And the positive side, you see it used all the time now, especially in the entertainment industry for, generating personas. Someone say there's an actor that he said his line wrong, or the director wants to change the word he said here and there, so that they use the same technology to manipulate the content in that way as well. So you see it all over in the mainstream media, and I think it's only going to pick up more and more as the technology becomes more advanced, more easier, and more higher quality than it is now.
Great, thank you. I think that we've completed our question period, and we have a few minutes to close the session. Thank you to both of you. It was fascinating and scary at the same time, and hopefully we won't spend the rest of the day under our desks. But thanks again.
Thank you.
What can I say? I really, Simon sort of capsulized it, and I'm sitting here on the 9th floor of our building, looking out my windows, wondering if there anything hovering around trying to pick up some through my light bulbs. You know what? We go through life every day, and we don't want to look over our shoulders, and we tell our kids that you've got to be friendly and warm, and be careful. But little do we know that through our phones, through our little, which we have this little tag that we have for I have to approve payments of our banking, and this is our second round of defense, our little fob, we can be hacked. Anyways, tremendous. It was we have about 10, 15 more questions actually, and unfortunately we can't get to them. But thank you so much, Yuval and Yisroel, for joining us and providing us with one of our best Webinar Wednesdays ever. Lucky 13, and this was the luckiest. And thank you all to our listening audience for supporting us and the outstanding Ben-Gurion University. If you'd like to find out more about this research and other research, because BGU is really at the vanguard of many aspects of research, please check us out at www.bengurion.ca. I would really like to thank my staff across Canada, my national lay leadership, as well as to my excellent colleagues in Israel, President Danny Chaimovitz, Vice President Jeff Kay and his team, and Doug Sesserman, CEO of the American Associates and his team. Stay tuned for our next webinar on December 9th, BGU in Space, and my Shimi Wenner, my Executive Director of Toronto, wants me to say, pigs in space. But stay tuned for featuring Dan Bloomberg, Professor Dan Bloomberg, who is an expert in his field in satellites, homeland security, and he will be appearing with Dr. Shimrit Maman, Research Associate and Director of the Earth and Planetary Image Facility at BGU. She was recently named in the world press as head of Israel's United Nations Spider-1 satellite project. I really, you just look into BGU and you will not believe how many fascinating areas of research we are involved with. And of course, Ben-Gurion University, especially Yuval and his department, love to have financial support, and anyone who wants to help them continue their research. And Yisroel, when you come back to BGU, you can be one of us. Please look us up and donate generously. And if you would like to get involved, call one of our 4 regional offices, Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, and speak to one of our 4 executive directors. Until December 9th, I wish you a very COVID-safe 3 weeks. Wear masks and social distance and be careful. Thank you so much again, guys. And everyone, I say goodbye from Côte Saint-Luc, Montreal.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe.
Thank you.